These are my 5 guests, my audience. Okay. Oh, all right.
Why is it on me?
Oh, is it on you?
Yeah.
Turn around. All right, y'all can go. Okay. Come here, y'all. My name is Malcolm, and I am here with the MUW RN to BSN program for MUW. I'll be discussing about the national opioid crisis that has been going on. As you know, opioids are drugs that are derived from the term opiates. They include drugs such as fentanyl, morphine, oxycodone, and hydrocodone. I'm sure everyone has had a family member or a patient that has been in the hospital before. And they most likely were in the hospital, they were in pain. Uh, the national opioid crisis that's been going on. Every day, more than 115 people in the U.S. have had overdoses on opioids, including prescription pain relievers. The CDC estimated that a total economic burden of prescription opioid misuse in the U.S. is 78.5 billion a year. And this has been going on for a while. It dated back from the 1990s when some pharmaceuticals they had prescribed some opioids to some patients. They did not think at the time that these prescriptions would become addictive. But later on, they found out that they did actually become addictive, and it led to a lot of drug overuse and abuse by those patients. Since then, it has been an ongoing situation where a lot of individuals they have died from the overuse of those medications, and like I said, they're still being treated for overdoses, and that is putting the hospital in more and more debt. Like I stated, in the 1990s, pharmaceutical companies they reassured the medical community that patients would not become addicted to pain relievers, but the opposite happened, and they actually did become addicted. This led to a large distribution of opioids. Approximately 21 to 30% of individuals were prescribed opioids for chronic pain, and those individuals misused those medications. Opioid overdoses increases 30% from July 2016 to September 2017 in 52 areas of 45 states. Once a patient has been introduced to an overdose, the most common drug that they use is Narcan. Narcan acts as like a reversal, and it pulls that drug out of them. Also, if a patient has had an overdose, 9 times out of 10, they are more likely to have another overdose eventually. Along with the overuse of opioids, hospitals have also been charged with almost 15 billion in 2012, which is more than double than that was billed in 2002. Signs and symptoms of overdose include shallow breathing, confusion, less alertness, a loss of consciousness, respiratory failure, constricted pupils, unresponsiveness. Um, See, those are the signs and symptoms of it. Now, for alternatives to the opioid addiction and misuse, instead of just jumping straight to pain medication, you can try certain alternatives such as cold therapy or heat therapy, or you can use diversional activities such as music therapy, or you can also use it was the it was the one I think I didn't say that, but it was like the heat packs and the cold packs. You can try to use those just before jumping to a pain medication. Just try a diversional before that, just so the patient won't, they'll know that there are alternatives to that. Now, to make a difference, you always try to educate your patient on just keep calling for pain meds back to back to back. Let them know that with these pain meds, they can cause constipation and, as a side effect for those. So, a lot of people like to go regularly with bowel movements and stuff like day by day. But if they continue to take opioids and all that, they eventually can become very constipated and they will have to have another medication to try to relieve them of their constipation. So just keep in mind about that. And like I also stated before, you can also, if they do have a overdose or they have a habit of taking drugs, you can try to refer them to rehab centers as well to try to work with them to break away from using those drugs. But like I stated before, if they do have an overdose, the main drug that is used will be Narcan to try to pull that drug from out of that patient. I always try to educate your patients and individuals about those pain meds though, because it's a common thing for them to use. And once again, my name is Malcolm, and this is my presentation on the opioid crisis. Thanks.